Hello and welcome to another edition of ProtoBalls Talk. I'm ProtoMet.
This is Barry.
And today we're talking about House to start off the spooky season.
Not to be confused with a Fox television show that ran for way too long.
Starring Hugh Laurie.
Hugh Laurie with an American accent.
This movie came out in 1985 and was produced by Sean S. Cunningham, who I believe produced the last movie we talked about just a couple days ago.
He's fucking everywhere. No, seriously, he's everywhere. I swear to God. It's not just Friday the 13th. He did this movie. He also did Last House on the Left. He also did fucking... He's everywhere. He's just, like... Do a 70s or 80s horror movie and then just roll the dice and see if Sean S. Cunningham produced it. Because chances are you got a 30% chance that he's there.
I mean, I'm more familiar with the fact that he worked on the Friday the 13th movies. I'm not terribly well read on his other careers beyond that. So,
well, I mean that's what he's most famous for. But it is 11 o'clock in the morning as we do this podcast. A little bit early for me. We're kind of rushed for time. We're trying to get this out tomorrow as of recording.
Yeah, I had the plan to watch this early in the week and then record the podcast late in the week. Unfortunately, I was the only one who knew that.
Yeah, I was not privy to that plan. But we made it work. We watched it on Thursday. And I'll be honest, it's all right.
So the movie starts with a grocery boy discovering that an old lady living in a house has hung herself.
Also, as an aside, can I also just say Steve Miner also did this movie? He did Friday Part 2. He did Part 3. He also did the pseudo remake of Day of the Dead, which is not good. He also directed a couple of episodes from The Wonder Years, Dawson's Creek, and Smallville. So, sort of a... He also did Lake Placid. I don't know if you've done that one yet.
We really should get around to it. I mean, giant alligators would probably go really well with it.
He also did a Halloween movie that we will eventually get to, H2O. Huh. The one good one in the rare bunch. Amazingly. So yeah, there was a suicide that unaliving that begins the movie.
We're not getting monetized, so we're not worried about demonetization. So we can say whatever the fuck we want.
As an aside, yeah, it's pretty interesting how that's become like Gen Z language now, unaliving.
I blame Deadpool because he came up with the term. There is an episode of this one Spider-Man cartoon that has Deadpool in it. And because it was a show made for kids, and Deadpool is Deadpool, he creatively got around it by coming up with the word unaliving people.
Yeah. So we get a suicide to begin the movie. And, at the funeral, we're introduced to William Katt's character.
Roger Cobb,
who is apparently a famous author of some sort.
Yeah, in the span of 5 to 10 minutes, we get a pretty decent summary of his backstory. He's a horror author. He was at one point married to an actress, a popular actress. He served in Vietnam, and his son is missing.
That's a lot of information. Yeah, right away. We're also privy to other information about him later on in the movie, but none of that really matters. Those are the Cliff Notes version.
Right.
It's the Cliff Notes.
And I'm actually kind of glad that we get all of this, real quick, but in a incredibly natural feeling sort of way.
Yeah, the opening 20 minutes is all right. Sort of. The opening 20 minutes is all basically set up.
Right, and the rest of the movie is nuts.
Yeah, that's for sure. So Roger decides there's a funny little scene where he's in a book signing or whatever, right? And there's a character who's like, God, what? I wonder what's your next book gonna be?
It's like, well, I'm gonna be writing about my experiences in Vietnam.
And the guy's just like, oh, that's great. That's great. Yay.
I'm sure anyone who served in Vietnam could tell you untold amounts of horror stories that would not make it into actual horror books.
We have 2 uncles that served in Vietnam, and even we're not privy to what they saw. So, yeah.
I mean, shit, Rambo is all about the the aftermath of that.
Yep.
And that's just from the perspective of one guy.
Yeah, it's...
Not Rambo, First Blood.
Yeah, First Blood.
Rambo in First Blood.
Rambo 0 First Blood.
Not to be confused with Rambo First Blood Part 2.
Yes. Yes, correct. So, Roger decides he's initially wanting to sell his aunt's house, but then he opts to not sell it, he opts to unsell it and live in it.
I feel I need to mention this without the proper context. This is after the realtor almost spears him with a harpoon gun.
That's true. So they're doing a tour of the house or whatever, and the realtor's jibber-jabbering with him. And
like, well, we can make a lot of money with a lot of this stuff. If we sell a lot of this junk and make some renovations and stuff.
Yeah. And Roger Cobb mentions that he actually grew up in the house or whatever.
So he's familiar with just about everything there. And they
go into the shed, and the realtor's dicking around with stuff, and he goes and he asks, so whatever happened with your uncle? Or whatever.
Well, he was, fishing for abalone and such, and then the harpoon gun goes off and almost hits him in the face.
Yep. And we never get the end of that story.
Let's move on, shall we?
Let's just move on. So Roger decides he's going to move into the house for a while to do some work, clean it up a bit,
And as he's taking out garbage, he first off gets introduced to the neighbor across the street.
I believe her name is Tanya.
Who has a thick accent.
Yep.
But he also gets introduced to his next door neighbor,
Norm! Sorry, George Wendt playing a different character. Harold Gorton.
And at first, Harold kind of comes across as like a bit of a smitten fan once he realizes that it's Roger Cobb.
Yep.
But like the very first interaction is like, yeah, the old lady who lived here, she was a nut job, and Cobb's like, she was my aunt. Great lady.
Great lady though in that sort of eccentric way.
It actually reminds me at the funeral. Roger's talking to one of his aunt's friends, who mentions that she seemed to be going a bit senile, but she wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
Unlike my wife.
Listen, your aunt, she may be going a bit senile, but she's not crazy. Now my wife, she's crazy. That little joke was good. But yeah, so Roger, throughout the film, we get snippets of Roger's experiences in Vietnam.
As well as the incident that resulted in the disappearance of his son, which
happened to be in the house, which his aunt claims the house took him.
Yeah, by this point, it's kind of been established that the aunt believed that the house was haunted.
Mm-hmm.
And given that this is a horror movie named House, she probably was right. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
To be sure.
Yeah, no kidding. And so, Roger's writing about his experiences in Vietnam, and he has a friend in Vietnam named Big Ben. We're not privy to his last name.
Played by Richard Mole, who Did a great job as Bull in Night Court, but he also was a great Harvey Dent in Batman the Animated Series, among other roles.
Yeah, he was a really good Two-Face for sure. I think probably one of the more iconic versions.
Oh yeah,
but
I think that was. I don't want to say that was my introduction to the character, but that was the first time that I knew what the character was all about.
So yeah, Roger is dicking around the house, and he, at some point, he wanders into his aunt's old bedroom, and
it's because he thinks he hears a voice.
Yeah, and he sees a vision of his aunt
just about to hang herself. That interacts with him. It tells him to get out of the house. It knows what you think.
Yeah.
It'll get to you. It knows how to get to you. And then disappears just as she hangs herself.
And, yeah. We mentioned that the aunt claims that the house took Roger's son, right? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. Just making sure we're clear on that. She thinks that the house kidnapped the child for some reason.
And is it at this point that we get the flashback to the disappearance, or?
Yeah, it's during the walkthrough of the house when he's looking at the pool.
He recalls that he was one day he was just out trimming the hedges, and his son was playing nearby until he looked away and then looked back. And he alerted his then wife. They went searching. He thought he saw his son flailing in the pool and dove in to get him, but nowhere to be found afterwards.
And that's why the divorce happened.
Because he couldn't let go.
Yep. So, anyway, Roger's exploring the house, and he goes back to the bathroom, but then he hears a noise again. So then he goes and checks out the closet in his aunt's room. And out comes a big scary monster.
That kind of reminds me of that thing from the end of Hellraiser. That chases the lead actress down the hallway.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, I know it's a different creature, but like just that like massive thing just reminds me of that.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, it scratches Roger pretty bad, but he manages to lock everything up. And
orders a bunch of cameras and lights to set up just for that closet.
Yep. And he also notices that it always happens after midnight. The monster appears after midnight.
So I think at one point he sets up all the cameras and does like a dry run of the whole situation, which results in him stumbling down the stairs and out the front door.
Yeah.
And Harold is just like, "What are you doing?"
Well, he gets everything set up and everything, and he's really excited. So he runs down the steps and he does like the soccer Pele slide out of his house. Well, Harold is just standing outside walking his dog, and he just goes, "So, how's it going?
How's the solitude going?"
How's the solitude going? Because Roger's been claiming that he wants solitude.
I think that was just his excuse to be like, "I don't want to interact with this fan who is clearly obsessed."
Yeah.
And actually, Harold is a good character in this movie because he initially comes across as like an obsessed fan once he finds out who it is, but like over the course of the movie, he's like, "Yeah, no, I'm just a guy.
I'm just a dude. I'm just a dude.
I'm just your neighbor.
I'm just a dude." And so then I forget. And then I think so him and Harold eventually get to talking later on in the movie, because this is because he wasn't able to do the picture and everything because Harold showed up.
Before he could do anything.
Yeah. And so they got to talking, and Roger sounds like just an absolute demented.
Like, I kind of like how when they're walking out of the bedroom, it's like, I'll explain downstairs in a bit.
Yeah, I'll explain downstairs in a bit, and then he tries to
deflect the whole thing by talking about something completely unrelated, and Harold's like, so what's with the cameras?
Yeah, so what's with the cameras? And
okay.
So eventually,
do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah. So they have this conversation, and Roger's like, "Do you think I'm crazy?" And Harold goes, "I don't think you're crazy. Yeah, I mean, you're a bit. I mean, you came back from Vietnam. Not everybody's gonna have their marbles set, but I don't think you're crazy. You're just."
I got at one point, Roger actually shows Harold his chest with like the wounds from being grabbed. I was like, oh, that's a scratch.
Yeah, oh, that's a couple of nasty scratches, and still dismisses it out of hand.
Yeah, scratches in the positions of a hand.
Yeah,
like where a claw would scratch it,
but eventually, as they're leaving,
Harold grabs Roger's phone book, and like that night calls his ex-wife to like, hey, you should maybe check on.
Yeah, like he goes, hey, so I'm Roger Comp's neighbor. I know this might be a bit out of hand, but I'm just concerned about him. He says he's searching for ghosts in in that old house next door.
It's like it's at this point I realized, oh, he's genuinely concerned about Roger.
Yeah.
It's like he didn't steal the phone book because he's an obsessive fan. He stole the phone book because he wanted to contact somebody that Roger knew and talk and try and get Roger some help. Great neighbor.
So eventually, a couple of other spooky things happen, and Roger is forced into the shed. Right? And then all the tools come to life and start attacking him.
I think what happens first is that he's at his desk in like the study.
Yeah.
And then the marlin that his uncle caught, the mounted marlin, starts flailing about.
Yep, it does the Evil Dead 2. The thing comes to life and starts flapping about. Similar to the deer head in Evil
on
Dead
the topic of Evil Dead, like a lot of this movie kind of feels Evil Dead-esque, specifically Evil Dead 2.
It's very Evil Dead coded. Speaking as an aside, did you know George Harrison has a music video that's like entirely Evil Dead?
No, I did not.
Yep,
I have to check that out sometime.
It's the cover of "I Got My Mind on You." And it's the second version of the music video, because apparently he really liked Evil Dead. He really liked Evil Dead 2 specifically. Much like how George Harrison really liked Monty Python so much that he opened a film studio to give us Life of Brian and Meaning of Life. So there's a whole music video with like floating chairs and shit. And it's like in a cabin and everything. It's weird. It's surreal.
So anyway, the marlin's flailing, so...
Yes. So
Roger goes out to the studio, which also doubles as a shed, and tries to get his uncle's shotgun and find some ammo.
And then the tools come to life and attack him.
Try getting at him. I love how he just, like, rushes out the door and closes it, and you get, like, the tools just kind of slightly protruding from it. Like in a cartoon.
Yep.
That's a good way to describe this movie from basically this point on.
It's a
cartoonish.
Yeah, it's a haunted house cartoon in real life.
Like from this point on, it goes from being fairly serious to silly.
If Evil Dead was family friendly.
No, this movie still got an R.
Oh, that's weird. That's weird. Okay, all right.
No, you're thinking of the next movie, which was PG-13.
Okay,
yeah.
Whatever.
We'll get to that when we get to that.
So anyway, yeah. the next day...
Well, no, he goes back in and shoots the marlin and drapes a shade over it. Like, okay.
All right, it's done. And then, like, he also locks the tools because the tools escape.
Well, I know that this occurs, like, immediately afterwards because he just shot the marlin.
And then the tools show up. Again.
No, not quite yet. Because his wife shows up.
Well,
by this point, it is morning.
Okay. I thought the tools escaped and he locked them in a certain room.
That is they probably did.
Yeah.
I think he locked them in his bedroom.
Yeah,
They chase him up into his bedroom, and then he manages to escape and locks him in there.
Yeah, and then in the next morning, his wife shows up.
And she's come to talk.
Yeah, she's come to talk to him.
Until she turns into a horrific monstrosity of a bloated corpse.
Yep. And then he shoots her.
Twice.
And we cut to George. We cut to Harold.
The second
George
shot
blasted
blasted the ghost out of the. Now by this out of the front door. And
by this
point, George is like, "Oh shit! George, I just shot my wife because that doesn't look like a ghost anymore."
Yeah, so Roger is just like, "Oh no, I shot my wife," because it transforms back into a vision of his wife. And then there's Harold, who's woken up by the gunshots, and he looks out the window, and all he doesn't see the corpse. He doesn't see the corpse. All he sees is Harold standing out on the front porch with a shotgun.
So he calls the police because he thinks that George is on the verge of killing himself.
Yep.
Which is completely understandable. Response.
So then Harold. Not Harold. So Roger. Then he's just like, "Fuck! I gotta hurry." Picks up the corpse, throws it into like the
a storage cabinet under the stairs.
Yeah, throws it into the stairwell, yeah.
Now, it should be noted that while he was bringing the ammo for the shotgun into his house, he accidentally dropped a couple of shells in the kitchen. But since he's already spent both shells in the gun itself, he ditches those and goes out on the front porch and starts just whistling while cleaning his gun as the cops show up. Yeah. Because he heard the sirens. He's like, okay.
Act natural.
Morning, officers!
Morning, officers! What seems to be the problem? And both officers...
And Harold,
they go inside. And so one of the officers is played by Alan Autry, who's most famous for playing Bubba on In the Heat of the Night, the television series, which is a fantastic series, by the way. As an aside. And then the other one is, I believe, Stephen Williams. And he was in... God dang it. Hold on. Yeah, Stephen Williams. And he was in 21 Jump Street. He was also on... he was X on the X-Files. And he was Rufus Turner on Supernatural. He's in another other couple shows, too. He was also in Jason Goes to Hell. We'll get to that.
As an actor in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, so they go inside, and then Harold also joins them.
Yeah, right.
And they all have a cup of coffee and everything, and while Roger's trying to keep them from going into looking into the stairwell.
And while he's in the kitchen with one of the officers and Harold, he drops something and realizes he dropped a couple of the shotgun shells and goes to try and pick those up while picking something else up. And Harold leans over and is like, "Here, let me help you with that.
Let me help you with this." He hands it to the officer and everything. Yeah. And Roger is just like, it's nothing. Don't worry about it.
That's just there.
It's just there. I don't clean it with a loaded shot. I don't clean my shotgun when it's loaded. That'd be silly. Yeah, whatever.
Like, as they're leaving, Roger looks in the study and notices that his gun is gone, and he goes, "My gun!" He's like, "What? Nothing?
No, nothing. Nothing's the matter.
Nothing.
Nothing's the matter. And so after everybody leaves and everything, he
goes to check the storage cupboard.
And the body's missing.
And I think that's where we're going to put the spoiler tag.
I guess so, yeah. It's an alright movie.
It's like a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, it's like a 5.5. It's alright. I mean, you watch it once and you're just like, that was a movie. And you move on.
I think I appreciate it more from a tokusatsu fan perspective because of the effect. The effects are good. The costume designs for the creatures,
yeah,
are pretty good. It's not perfect. There are some flaws, but for the story that's being told, a slightly silly haunted house movie, it's perfectly serviceable. And I can definitely say that it gets better.
Also has a couple of interesting cameos from a couple of people. Like Mindy Sterling is one of the women, is the woman in the bookstore. She is she's what's his name's? Dr. Evil's girlfriend in Austin Powers.
I thought that was Rhea Perlman.
No,
they look so similar.
They do look similar.
That's why I was like, hey, it's Rhea Perlman, and you were like, oh shit, it is. But no.
No, it's Mindy Sterling. Yeah. They had Susan French as the aunt. She's in a lot of stuff. She was in a lot of stuff.
William Catt, who plays Roger, he was in Carrie and other stuff.
Yeah,
I actually looked him up last night, and I recognized him from something else, but I can't.
Yeah, he's probably most famous for his role in Carrie.
And Greatest American Hero.
Greatest American Hero, yep. George Wendt, everybody knows who George Wendt is. Alright?
I mean, he's in the place where everybody knows your name.
Exactly.
Why would they not know him?
Kay Lenz is Roger's wife. She's in a couple of different movies. She's not just in House, but she was also she got nominated for a Golden Globe in Breezy, which is like a 1973 film. And a couple of others. Oh, she was also in American Graffiti, but in like a cameo. So, yeah, a couple of moderate names here, and George Wendt.
Admittedly, you see George Wendt, and that's the only one you really remember.
It's really the only one you remember. Yep. What was your favorite scene in the movie? I guess, or is it after?
I think it might be spoilery territory.
I don't know. Characters, yeah, it's an alright film, I guess. It's really hard to talk. It's really hard to talk about films that are like just okay, because there's stuff there.
It's also hard to talk about stuff that you liked if the stuff that you liked is in the second half, and you don't want to spoil that.
That's also true. Well, and it's just like, I'm not saying like our lack of really going in depth on this isn't because there's nothing to talk about. It's just that it's hard to talk about stuff that's very straightforward. And also doesn't. It's hard to talk about stuff that's straightforward and doesn't have a lot of nuance to it. It's a haunted house film.
I do kind of like how it's basically a story of a guy going through the rigors of all the shit that he's gone through in life, and
yeah, I mean the Vietnam sections are probably the most interesting out of all of them.
But all this shit happened to him, and you can kind of see where he's kind of slowly going mad. Except that he's not completely going mad, because some of the stuff that you'd think he's going mad about are happening to him. Right. They're happening at him.
That's a really good way of putting it. The stuff that happens doesn't happen to him. It happens around him. It happens to other people, and he's just caught in the middle.
At least up until he actually gets to the house.
Well, yes, of course.
Like, at that point, then stuff starts happening at him.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically to him. And there's a reason why it seems to escalate towards this point in the movie. So...
Yeah. So, nevertheless, favorite character? I guess George Wendt's character, I guess? I don't know.
No, I think Roger is a pretty good character all told. I mean, I do appreciate the fact that Harold does, kind of have this arc where you think he's a crazed fan or an obsessed fan, but then he turns out to be like, no, I'm a concerned person. I actually want to be your friend in a genuine way.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
But Roger just goes through a whole character arc in this movie. Go on. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it until the end, but, he starts off in not the best place.
Yeah.
Like, he's had successes, but he's also had some pretty significant downs in his life that have offset those highs. So...
Like I said, his experiences in Vietnam are probably the most interesting part of the film. Even if they're not all that realistic. They're pretty overplayed.
Though, to be fair, it's from the perspective of, a guy who experienced them, so he might be exaggerating stuff in his mind or in his book.
He's definitely embellishing things.
And, he could just be misremembering things because of how traumatic the whole experience wound up being.
So, recommendations, I guess.
Have I recommended Digimon on this?
I don't think so.
I'm pretty confident I have, but I'm not going to recommend Digimon in general. I'm going to specifically recommend the most recent anime, Digimon Ghost Game, which is basically, what if a bunch of spooky urban legends and myths were because of Digimon? But, in a good way.
Right.
The series generally follows this kid, Hiro Amanagawa, and a couple of friends he ends up meeting, and their Digimon partners as they investigate weird occurrences that are ultimately connected to Digimon, but it's in a time period where hologram technology is all over the place, so a lot of people just assume that these are, glitched holograms and stuff. And I gotta say, this series has probably some of the most effed up stuff to happen to just general people on a regular basis. And generally it all gets reset by the end of the episode. In most instances it's just Digimon being not all that, learned about the human world. But it's some people legit die, which is completely uncommon for Digimon. And it's just a good straight horror series for the most part.
Yeah.
I do kind of wish that the ending were a bit better, but I do kind of feel like they intentionally rushed it and made it a bit over the top just to justify, hey, this is why all this happening, and we knew we had to end the show. We knew it wasn't going to be a satisfying ending, so we're just going to have a bit of fun with it. But the show itself does have a creepy atmosphere to it, which is very nicely done. I can definitely recommend it, which is why I am.
Very nice. Very nice.
You?
Now let's see Paul Allen's suggestion. Sorry.
No context.
No context. If you know, you know. Alright? I haven't suggested Yu-Gi-Oh, have I?
No.
I'd like to suggest Yu-Gi-Oh, the original series. The what is it, 98 to 2003 series? I forget when it originally aired, but...
Are we talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! From the manga's start to the original manga's end? Or are we talking about the second anime that people are more familiar with?
The second anime. Not the season 0, the forbidden season!
I've actually been rewatching the first, air quotes, Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime lately.
Season 0 or the
Well, I watched Season 0,
Okay,
but
okay,
I'm currently on the Duel Monsters.
Okay, you're on Duel Monsters. Which arc are you on?
Early Duelist Kingdom.
Very nice.
I'm right in the middle of the Panic arc.
Oh, man. Dude, okay, so...
Panic Duel.
If you know Yu-Gi-Oh!, you know Yu-Gi-Oh! If you've seen Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, listen. Yu-Gi-Oh's great. I'm actually right in the middle of the finalists. I think I'm in the middle of Mai versus Yugi.
Spoilers for that arc.
It's good. Duelist Kingdom is... I will say, Duelist Kingdom is actually a very interesting start. So there's 5 seasons of the original series of Yu-Gi-Oh, as I'll call it.
Air quotes.
Air quotes.
Duel Monsters.
We'll call them Duel Monsters for
because the Japanese title is Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters.
Yep. So there's Duelist Kingdom. There's Battle City. There's
Battle City Part 2.
There's
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, it's not yeah. So yeah, there's Battle City, which is the second season, and then the third season is split in half
because half of it is a storyline that interrupts Battle City,
and then it's the
second half is the rest of Battle City.
Yeah, and then it's Battle City Finals. So the Noah's Ark.
No, like the second half of Battle City Finals, because like they do the first half.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And then the arc interrupts, this filler arc interrupts it, and then they finally finish it off with like the last 4 competitors.
So season 3, so season 3 is split between Noah's Ark, if you know, you know, and the Battle City's Finals 2, Electric Boogaloo. Season 4 is the Orichalco saga, which is non-canon to the manga, by the way, and makes no fucking sense. It is the most nonsensical season Yu-Gi-Oh! Has. Like, legit, Season 5 is fucking insane, but even that makes more sense than Season 4. And it's also... I definitely recommend watching the 4Kids version, though.
So what is Yu-Gi-Oh! About? Card games? Just card games?
Card games. Not to be confused with card games on motorcycles.
That's the 4th anime.
That is
5th anime, depending on what you count Capsule Monsters.
God. Oh my god. Isn't Capsule Monsters I think is part of season 5.
Yeah, it like comes in like in the middle, but that was like made by 4Kids who licensed the anime.
Yeah. Cause I have season 3 through 5. I don't have 1 through 2 for some reason, because my ex didn't get me them. It's whatever.
They're readily available compared to a couple of the middle seasons.
But season 5, it has the Grand Prick.
You're a Grand Prick.
It has the Kaiba Grand Prick. You're a Grand Prick. It has Capsule Monsters, which is in the middle, and then it has the actual end of the show.
So Capsule Monsters is on the DVDs?
Yeah.
Okay, then I probably do have it and don't realize it.
Yeah. Because season 4 is all of the Orichalco's shit, and and the end of season. Because Capsule Monsters is part of season 5, which is it's weird placement because it takes place right after the Grand Prick.
You're a Grand Prick.
God, I love.
All right, that joke is dead.
That joke's dead. And yeah.
So for context, and I've actually been rereading the original manga as I've been watching through the show. The premise is that this scrawny high school kid named Yugi, gets bullied at school, but he's got this golden puzzle from ancient Egypt he got from his grandpa that one day he finally manages to solve, and it unlocks a dark side to him that is really, really good at games. And he uses that to ostensibly get revenge on people who try to wrong him, while at the same time he's also now starting to make close friends with a couple of the couple of kids who used to bully him. And it just kind of escalates, and then Seto Kaiba and the Duel Monsters card game get introduced, and then there's a whole storyline where Kaiba's trying to get revenge with a murder theme park that ends with a card game that is the first episode of the second Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. And then we get introduced to Bakura, who tries to capture Yugi and his friends in, like, RPG miniatures in an RPG game, which got adapted for, like, an episode of the second anime. And then from, like, then on, it's just card games for days.
It's just nothing but card games.
Because one thing that worked...
Which is funny, because the card games doesn't make any sense in the first season. For, like...
like, they make up the rules as they go along.
Yeah, what was it? I think, what was it?
Like, at one point, like, since I mentioned I'm in the Panic arc, at one point early on in the duel between Yugi and Panic, Panic puts up this giant floating castle.
Yeah.
And then Yugi does a bunch of bullshit to, like,
I'm trying to
get it into a situation where he launches one of his monsters at the castle to break its flotation ring.
Yeah.
And then on the next ring, when everything stops being frozen in time by Swords of Revealing Light, it just comes down and kills all of Panic's monsters. I was like, what?
Yeah, it doesn't make a lick of sense, but I think, by season 2 of the anime, they actually do have the established rules, but I think Takahashi...
That's because they actually have a set of rules and are like, okay, we're gonna stick to these.
Yeah, because I think Kazuo Takahashi...
The late Kazuki Takahashi.
The late Kazuo Takahashi, may he rest in peace. I think he eventually licensed it out to Konami, who, with him in conjunction, they both eventually made the rule set. I think this was in 97, 98. Either that or late 96, somewhere around there.
That was like the second actual card game. The first one was done by Bandai, and it required you to get specific cards in order to read what the rules were.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Like, I think some monster cards just straight up had rules for the game in general. It's like, oh, okay.
99. It started in 99. Okay. So by that point, by 1999, by that point, there was an actually established rule set, which is what Battle City eventually does. With, because in the first season, you could just, I've got a super powerful monster, I'm just gonna throw it down and summon it right away. Whereas in the early actual card game, you had to sacrifice
lower level monsters in order to summon higher level monsters.
But now they've got shit like pendulum summoning and XYZ summoning and all this shit, and it's just like, holy fuck, guys. How do you overcomplicate things to such a degree?
Oh, there's a great ProZD video where he's playing two characters playing a Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game, and like one player just starts a whole chain of events, and the second player is like, is it my turn yet?
Oh yes, I remember that. But now I have Dairy Farmer.
Look, I'm gonna go get something to eat.
I'm gonna go get something to eat. Yeah, that's all right. By the time you get back, I still won't be finished.
So yeah, the series gets super complicated if you're looking at the card games.
Which is funny, because I actually think he was making fun of Magic the Gathering in that one.
Same thing applies. I mean, at this point, Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards are practically novels unto themselves.
You know, the other thing I love about Season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is also the fucking field bonus. It's such bullshit.
I know. I'm in Darknet. It's night, so my monsters get powers. Well, I'm on the water. Do I get a power bonus? No!
No!
Because it's night!
Hey, man.
I use my monster to destroy one of my magic cards, even though my monster doesn't have this ability, in order to change this this ocean into dry land.
I actually think Season 2, Season 2 introduced polymerization, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think there were some instances of polymerization which is fusion monsters. You can take two monsters and fuse them into one. But then there were like instances where like Joey just summons the Flame Swordsman, a fusion monster.
I'm instantly reminded of that scene in Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series, which is a web animation series that started in fucking 2008.
And it's still going, and the guy is...
Still
He's
going.
taking his time. He's taking his time.
Little Karibo is, God bless him.
Yeah.
But there's a scene where Yugi goes, I use polymerization on so-and-so monster and so-and-so monster, and it starts to polymerize, and then it cancels out, and he's like, what? Wait, what? You mean to tell me I can't just mix two completely random monsters? This is bullshit!
Or there's the always classic, wait a minute, did you just summon a bunch of monsters on one turn? Yeah? So?
Yeah.
That's against the rules, isn't it?
Screw the rules. I have money.
I have green hair.
No, you know what? No, my favorite...
Screw the money, I have rules.
Yeah, screw the money, I have rules. No, I think my favorite is the old version of it. The old version of it. Hold on. I gotta find it now. Because he's like, there's a clip show episode that Little Karibo makes fun of. Yeah, you know the one I'm talking about.
We're like reimagine the first episode as though we're like a silent film.
Yeah, as if it were like
an old-timey silent film with the vernacular of the time. God, I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, hold on. I have to find it because I know the punchline. I just can't remember what it was. Oh my god. But it was something along the lines of like, so the original line is, wait a minute, did you just summon a bunch of monsters in one turn? Yeah, so that's against the rules, isn't it? Screw the rules, I have money, which itself is a trope nowadays.
It became a meme unto itself. Which is why it kept getting repeated in the series.
Mm-hmm. Hold on. Give me just a second here. I'm sure I'll find it. I'll find it eventually.
Let's have a race to see who can find it first.
Yeah, let's see who can find it first. Oh, no. I'm not gonna find it. It's whatever. Oh, okay, alright. Alright, here's what it was. Alright. You have assembled several creatures. Surely this is a violation. My affluence makes a nonsense of the regulations. And he's got like he's got like a twirl mustache. Because it's in black.
An old-time villain mustache.
Yeah, it's because it's making fun of like 1920s films or whatever. Huh, I don't ever remember growing a mustache. But I do remember when Pegasus held the Duelist Kingdom tournament. Anyways, yes.
The Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime just kind of... I'm kind of surprised at how quickly that took off in the US, considering how it just kind of dumps you into the series and doesn't properly introduce two of the major characters properly. This is like, you get Seto Kaiba episode, which in the first anime had a several episodes long story arc, and then you have Bakura, who similarly had a several episodes long story arc in the first anime, and then they're just like, this is this guy, we're recontextualizing and compressing these storylines.
So the first episode introduces Seto Kaiba, and then the second episode introduces Pegasus. And I think it's the 6th or 7th episode that actually properly introduces Bakura.
No, it's like past episode 10. Like, he makes a cameo early on to explain how we got to the island by that point, but then like episode 13. 12 and 13 are the proper introduction to this character, who in the original manga had been introduced before Pegasus even was.
Yep. And yeah, honestly, I'm fine with it. To be honest,
I get why they did it, because the first anime was done by a different production crew, a different studio.
I also think they just primarily wanted to focus on the card game,
right? But it's just like but since we never got season 0 here in the US, it just results in, the only earliest available anime legally just kind of expecting you to just accept that these characters exist with little...
it's a clunky start, but it more than makes up for it.
Yeah.
Because I think it does
by having a clunky 4th season.
Yeah. The Forbidden Season! No, I'm just kidding. But no, I think it does a fine job of introducing these characters, because right away it introduces Seto Kaiba as a rich fucking asshole.
I'm merely mentioning this because, like I said, I watched the season 0 before starting on Duel Monsters, and I've been reading the original manga in conjunction, so I'm able to, like, from this perspective, see, yeah, this is kind of clunky.
By the way, Yami Yugi is a murderous asshole.
Early on.
Season 1, you don't really... Season 1, he's... Yeah. For most of the series, he's not really that bad. But
if you go to, like, season 0 in the original early on in the original manga, it's like, yeah, no, this is...
He burns a fucker alive.
I know!
Literally pours gasoline on him and fucking lights a match and watches him die.
No, he forces the guy to pour gasoline on himself and light himself on fire.
Yeah, dude's fucking demented. Thank God that's not in... as an aside, by the way, I know everybody makes fun of the 4Kids dubs for shows. Like One Piece, One Piece is infamous for having a bad 4Kids dub.
Yeah, yo.
Yeah, yo, yo. Yo, ho, ho, took a bite of gum gum.
But yeah, it's like, what were they thinking? You license a show about pirates.
Don't give it up, Luffy. Hey, yo, don't give it up. Solo, hey, yo, don't give it up, Nami. Get it up, get it up, get it up.
Were you just expecting this pirate series to not have piratical elements to it that are essential to pirates? It's like, oh shit, they've got guns and swords and stuff.
This guy, he's made of rubber. How did this happen? Yo, ho, ho, we took a bite. And they got it's the fucking rap song at the beginning. I love the One Piece opening. Not the 4Kids version, but like the original opening, though. It's an awesome opening.
Wait, are we talking about... Okay, not the 4Kids opening.
Not the 4Kids opening.
We are. That song kicks so much ass.
That song kicks so much ass. But I was going to say, for like 4Kids, I don't think they're terrible. 4Kids also did the Kirby dub, didn't they?
I think so. They did the early seasons of Pokemon.
Yep. Which,
again, kind of silly changes and omissions here and there, but... Generally well received. That's how I got into the series.
Largely speaking, the 4Kids dubs are fine if you are willing to look past the silly changes that they do. The One Piece dub is arguably like the
biggest misstep on there.
It's the biggest misstep. If they were gonna censor it so heavily, they shouldn't have done it in the first place.
Right.
But like Yu-Gi-Oh, it has guns in the show. There's a couple of scenes where it's just guys pointing or whatever.
Just pointing! Because their guns were edited out.
There's a scene where Bandit Keith in the Japanese version, Bandit Keith holds a gun to Pegasus's head.
And instead it's changed to him just pointing, slightly menacingly.
Yeah, just pointing.
Pointing accusatorily.
No one moves or he gets it! In America! Bandit Keith's whole deal is he's an American thug. He looks like what a Japanese person thinks like an American patriot is. Yeah. He's got the American bandana, the leather jacket, the jeans and everything.
Leather vest!
Leather
vest, not a jacket.
And it's just like, yeah, that's an American.
Yep, that guy is certainly American.
Blonde hair, stubble.
Yep, yeah. Sunglasses.
That, like, you look at his design and you're like,
yep, that guy is American.
That is an American if you ever saw one. You can see, like, on a 4th of July, you'd see one of those people walking down the street. But I was gonna say, I actually like the 4Kids dub for Yu-Gi-Oh! I actually think it's perfectly fine. It's a little silly and a little... it's a little silly, but
it's riffable, which makes it fun. Especially when you understand just what all got changed.
Yeah.
Then you can kind of point and laugh like,
And I mean, we got Dan Green as Yugi. I mean, come on.
Is it weird that I am currently in the process of watching three shows that at one point or another were connected to 4Kids? I'm currently watching Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm working my way towards finishing up Pokemon. And I'm also finishing up the 2003 Ninja Turtles cartoon that they did.
Oh yeah, didn't they also do? They also did Digimon for a while, didn't they?
No,
that
was
didn't?
Saban.
Oh, okay, that was Saban. Okay, because
similarly silly changes here and there.
The early 2000s was kind of a golden period for anime dubs because you had Pokemon, you had.
It was a golden age for Western anime fans.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks in large part to shows like Dragon Ball and Pokemon and Digimon and Sailor Moon.
I'm surprised 4Kids never did fucking Dragon Ball. Although Ocean had gotten there before.
Yeah, and then Funimation was like, well, we can salvage this.
Yeah, we can salvage this. The Ocean dub of Dragon Ball is all right.
I'm not terribly familiar outside of the one meme, but I do like the fact that it gave
what is it? You will not escape my wrath?
No, it's over 9,000.
It's over 9,000!
But no, I appreciate that it gave us in the West a chance to actually have fun with the Clone Vegeta arc of Dragon Ball Super, which is otherwise a terrible arc.
I've heard stories about that arc. I've heard it's terrible.
But like the one saving grace is that in the English dub they got the original Ocean studio voice actor for Vegeta to voice Clone Vegeta. So it's like, okay.
So, yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Definitely check it out. And I just want to say, I noticed that we've talked more about other stuffs other than House. We're about 57 minutes in, and we...
Like, half of it is not House.
Yeah, we spent maybe like 25, 30... Yeah, we spent like 25 minutes maybe talking about House. So
we should probably get back to it.
Yeah, we should probably get back to it. Fuck.
So, the cupboard under the stairs is empty.
Yeah,
And Ghostwife, is evil.
So he goes upstairs to the aunt's room, and the ghost wife ambushes him, and is about to shoot him, but the gun's empty because the ghost wife is a moron. And this allows Roger to kick his bedroom door open,
allowing the tools to come out and attack Ghostwife.
Yep. And so Roger gets a bright idea here.
Because the Ghostwife get decapitated at this point.
So Roger gets a good idea. He grabs a bunch of trash bags and everything, and he grabs a trash bag and puts the body in it or whatever, and he's getting ready to dig everything in, and then he finds Tanya in his pool. but she's like, oh, okay, shit.
Yeah, no, your aunt let me come over and swim just all the time when she was still alive, so...
Which is kind of...
I just kind of, assumed that was still okay with her nephew. Now running the place.
Are you sure it's okay? She's definitely, flirting with him, but then we totally see why later on.
Yeah.
It's a classic bait and switch.
Now she has, and all this time that he's trying to talk with her, he's also, concerned like, oh shit, is she gonna find the ghost corpse in the bag?
Oh, this is a sapling. This is a tree sapling that I'm planting.
Okay.
Meanwhile, it's still alive in there, and it's trying to fuck with him, and he's
trying to grab it with its one free hand,
and he's constantly just He's constantly stomping on it and shit. And eventually Tanya leaves, and he finally gets the idea, if I bury this thing, it's just gonna come back. So then he grabs an axe, chops it up.
He pulls the axe out of the corpse.
Yeah.
And chops it up and buries it in multiple holes.
It's so silly.
And then a dog digs up one of the hands and runs off with it.
And and then that's when
Tanya decides to come over for play, along with her son.
Haha! Bait and switched.
Playtime means you have to babysit my son while I'm off doing something without any prior warning.
Yeah, like, Roger's just like, okay.
I mean, I was in the middle of something, but okay.
Oh, okay.
And the situation gets complicated when he notices that the ghost hand is on the kid's back.
Yep. So eventually he has to like wrangle the kid and get him into
the bathroom and manages to get the hand down into the toilet and flush it down. It's like,
yeah, the whole thing's silly, and so eventually he's watching the kid, and the kid gets tired, and falls asleep, and
Roger looks away for like a moment.
Yeah, he looks away for a couple of minutes.
And when he looks back,
because he's in the middle of writing,
right,
and he's doing and so he has another flashback to Vietnam where he and his buddy Big Ben, they go off away from the group to sort of scout things out.
Because I think Ben heard something.
Yep.
And this is after Ben had heard some oncoming attackers earlier in the flashback.
In the flashback where he had seen them throw a grenade and warn everybody. So Ben's like a crack shot shooter. And so Roger, he finishes that flashback and then he goes to check on the kid.
Eventually he runs and finds the kid just as he's being pulled up a chimney by a couple like imp looking
a couple of
grotesques.
A couple of imp looking weirdos, and they pull him up the chimney, and there's just the scene where Roger's legs are like
trying to hold their spot on the edges of the fireplace while he's pulling on the kid's legs while the monsters are pulling on its arms.
It's a total like Three Stooges thing, because you just see his legs. All you see is his legs in the chimney, and he's just like, no!
He'll occasionally cut back up to him in the chimney. I was like, come on.
You know what it reminds me of? So remember in Clock Tower, when you're in the castle section, you can inspect one of the chimneys? Or you can inspect one of the fireplaces.
Yeah.
And your character, if you inspect it twice, they'll put their hand up, and then they get dragged up the chimney and killed. And you just see their legs kicking, trying to free themselves. It's pretty. Yeah, that's instantly what it reminded me of.
Okay.
Because it was like, oh nope, he's dead. No escaping that. So eventually he gets the kid, gives him a bath and everything to clean him up, and everything.
And Tanya returns to pick the kid up, and it's like, hell no, we had fun. Come again.
And so eventually Harold comes over, and Roger at this point is just. He's done with it.
He's at wit's end. Like, I'm done dealing with this bullshit. Come on, Harold. We're gonna catch ghosts. We're gonna catch we're gonna kill a raccoon. I trapped it in my closet upstairs.
He goes.
It's a big raccoon. So.
Yeah. He goes. So it turns out it wasn't a ghost. It was
a raccoon.
It was just a big raccoon, a big nasty raccoon.
I got it trapped up in my closet, but we gotta kill it before it can get out and make a nest or something. So will you help me do that? It's like, yeah, okay. Yeah. Here's the spear gun.
Harold is like, okay.
And Roger, like, uses a mattress to shield himself as he's opening the door. It's like, okay.
So then midnight hits, and he swings the door open, and out comes the monster.
The monster!
And so Harold is like, what the fuck?
Shoot her!
Shoot her! Shoot her! That scene is so dumb. All right.
And Harold does manage to hit the monster with the harpoon, which starts
not this scene, but the shooter scene is so dumb because it makes no sense. Because you see a bunch of people running in with fucking tasers and shit, and they're hitting it, and it's just like, guys, just shoot the fucker. All right. Anyways, Roger actually gets dragged in because his foot gets caught on the rope because the fishing wire breaks off.
Well, no, it doesn't break off. Harold isn't able to get off a second shot because it's all sorts of chaos.
Yeah.
But he at least tries to use the fishing line. But
he also blue screens. Yeah, he also blue screens.
It's like, and then the line runs out. It's like, crap.
Shit. So Roger gets dragged in, and Harold drinks himself into a stupor in the meantime. And Roger is brought back to Vietnam,
where he basically is forced to have the last portion of his flashback, where Big Ben gets injured by Viet Cong, and he tells Roger to kill him to end his suffering, and Roger can't bring himself to do it and runs off to try and get help, leaving Big Ben to be captured and eventually tortured by the Viet Cong.
Yep.
So a lot of this movie is about him dealing with that guilt.
Yeah, dealing with abandoning his friend because he was a coward. He couldn't bring himself to kill his friend in his time of need.
But, like, he manages to snap back to the reality of the situation when he sees, just a door-shaped wall of light. It's like, oh, the exit. Gotta get out of here.
Yeah, and he's getting shot at by Viet Cong and everything, and he flies through the doorway, which brings him back to reality.
And doesn't Harold just wake up when he hears this? Like, what the?
Yeah, Harold is drunk as a skunk.
That wasn't a raccoon, Roger.
Oh, that's an Iraq. Yeah?
A raccoon, Roger? Really?
A raccoon, Roger? Really? I'm going to sleep.
So Roger takes him home and puts him to
bed and everything.
And then comes home. It's like...
So then, at that point,
Roger remembers a painting that the realtor had shown him in the studio that his aunt had been working on of her standing in front of a lit-up doorway that also featured a clock on midnight and other imagery that are relevant to the rest of the movie.
Yep.
But when we first are introduced to this painting, there's a part of it that's covered up by a drape or something. And so Roger goes...
Which I think is actually really clever.
Right.
I think that's a really, really minute detail
that you wouldn't think about until it actually becomes relevant.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Deep Red, in a way, where it's a blink and you miss it notice, and if you don't notice it, you don't even think about it until the end. But if you do see it, you do know who the killer is.
But anyway, Roger goes in the studio and looks at the painting, and then lifts up the piece of drapery and finds his son stuck in the medicine cabinet of the bathroom.
Yeah.
And he opens up the medicine cabinet, there's nothing there. Closes it and thinks. Grabs a chair, smashes the window, opening up the portal to the other dimension that these monsters are coming from. And equips himself with his shotgun and a rope, and
he gets attacked at first, but manages to escape, and then he equips himself with...
He gets attacked by what looks like the alien's tail from Alien.
So eventually he goes inside, and he drops the rope and everything, and he's climbing down with his shotgun and stuff. And then a big scary winged ghoul
steals his shotgun and shoots the rope.
It looks like the Deadite from the end of Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, it does.
And it steals his gun and shoots the rope, so he's falling forever before landing in water. And he finds his son.
Yeah, he eventually finds trapped in a bamboo cage.
Yeah,
just been there the whole time. It's like he's stuck in this other dimension
for years. for God knows how long exactly.
Right. Like, we don't know how long it's been since his son went missing. Just that it's been long enough for him and his wife to move out, get a divorce, his aunt to die, and then for him to move back.
Yeah, so at minimum at least a year and a half, 2 years. Whatever. So he grabs his kid. They start making their escape.
And then Big Ben shows up.
And then an undead Big Ben shows up. And Big Ben is just like, "You left me to die there, pal. Now I'm gonna kill you." Which, I mean, as far as revenge plots go, alright. I mean, it makes sense. He did say he would get him for this. Okay. So then a big chase fight happens and everything.
And Roger manages to get out of the other dimension with his son. Tells the son to get out of the house.
Yeah.
Except Big Ben shows back up. Wasn't as dealt with as Roger thought.
Yeah, because he tries to run out the front door or whatever, and then it's just a cliffside, and he manages to throw Big Ben down the cliff. And he goes to look for his son, and here's Big Ben again, and he holding up Jimmy, Roger's kid, and eventually
there's a chase thing through the upstairs.
Yeah, well that was yep.
But by this point, Roger he's sick of this shit. It's like, you know what? No, I'm not taking this bullshit anymore. I'm through being afraid of this guilt that I've been dealing with.
And what makes him realize it is when Big Ben tries to chop his hand off.
And his hand is fine.
His hand is fine, which means it's an illusion of sorts.
I think it's also at this point that Big Ben reveals that basically he's been the one haunting the house.
Which is, that's... Well, alright, whatever. Alright.
I mean, presumably his spirit somehow made its way to the house through the alternate dimension, and he kidnapped the kid.
Yeah.
But then once Roger moved out, he started to figure out how to exercise his powers over the house, and basically was haunting Roger's aunt until she killed herself, which drew Roger back in. It's a long game sort of revenge strategy.
The whole thing's weird.
It was like, okay, it makes a modicum of sense. Also, why getting rid of Big Ben would solve the entire problem.
Yep. So Roger grabs one of Ben's grenades and sticks it up his gut.
Sticks it right in his gut.
And it explodes, and it causes the house to start on fire. So then you see the house on fire, and Roger's wife shows up right then and there.
As Roger, carrying his son on his shoulder, walks out all badass.
Yeah, and then Harold also runs over, and he sees the house. He and the wife see the house burning, and they're like, "Oh no!" And the door kicks open, and here comes Roger and his son Jimmy, and it's a happy ending. Yeah, I guess.
And that's where the movie ends. That's the house burning down because
it's fine. What was your favorite scene, though?
Just anything with Zombie Big Ben.
Zombie Big Ben?
Just Zombie Big Ben as a whole is probably my favorite character in the movie. Because, especially once I realized that this whole thing was just his long game revenge plan for...
Which is, it's kind of silly.
It's silly, but so is a good chunk of this movie.
Probably the Big Ben stuff. I will also say the prosthetic works. The makeup for Big Ben is actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, like I said, from a Tokusatsu fan perspective, it looks pretty good. Though when you see the mouth movements while he's talking, it's like, yeah, no, that's not great.
Yeah. It's just him flapping his lips.
It does not sync up for most scenes. It's like, yeah, no, this is pretty obvious, but whatever. We're just here to have fun.
Hey, what do you expect from a low-budget film?
Which looked like it had a surprisingly big budget.
Yeah. It just had good camera work.
Yeah.
So, it's an alright film. 5.5. That was I
gave it 6.
Yeah, 5.5 out of 10. It's fine. You watch. It's the kind of movie where, like, if you were doing a horror movie marathon, you'd definitely throw it on in the middle while you're doing other stuff.
Right.
It's not. You wouldn't put it at the beginning of your You wouldn't put it at the beginning of your marathon, and you wouldn't put it at the end.
Like, it's right there in the middle.
Right there in the middle, where, like, if you're having like a bunch of people over to watch movies, or you're planning, like, hey, let's watch a horror movie every day. It'd be the one where you're expecting the least amount of people to show up.
Right.
So it's fine.
Yeah.
Like it feels. I don't know how it got an R. This is like super family friendly in my opinion. Outside of the Vietnam, I think it's the Vietnam segments.
Yeah, the Vietnam segments can get a bit gory at times.
Yeah.
That and the whole zombie Big Ben with his guts and stuff.
Yeah, it's what it is.
Or maybe it's, the dismembered hand or the decapitated ghost wife.
Yeah, who knows. So it had a budget of $3 million, by the way. So that's in the 80s. That's
pretty respectable budget.
Yeah, hold on. What is $3 million today? I gotta look. $3 million 1985. Let's do 1986. We'll do 1986 and see what that is. So 3000 in 1985. Give me just a second here. We'll actually
see what that looks like with inflation.
About $8.8 million.
So yeah, pretty respectable.
Pretty respectable amount. I mean, most big budget films get like $100 million nowadays, but $8 million, you could definitely do some work with $8 million in a film.
And it does help that like only half the movie uses some of the bigger effects.
Yeah, that too.
And it's like in the second half, by which point you should already be invested.
And so. Of course, we forgot to mention, of course, Harry Manfredini is also doing the music in this film because he's in every fucking Sean S. Cunningham picture. I swear to God, he's in every Friday the 13th film. He's in everything. He's in every Sean S. Cunningham film. So yeah, so that was House. What are we doing next time?
House 2, the second story.
Yes.
So look forward to that.
If you could, I don't know why you say look forward to that. I hear things about.
Yeah.
All right. I suppose.
Bye.
Bye.